Turn that damn roof off!
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome in Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. It's great to be back here in the great state of Arkansas once again and getting back into the routine of things. We're going to have a lot of things to discuss today because not only are we going to have a little bit of the vibe check for all of you out there presented by Basis Health, but we'll get into your Alumni Hall question of the day, as well as who the heavy hitter was, according to all of you, but as well as us. Of course, that's presented by HD Roofing and Construction, and then get into a little best and worst of the weekend action presented by our guy, Logan. But either way, it's a great day, guys. But how's it feel to be back? I'm sure all of us are back on the time zone changes, and we're getting full-fledged nights of sleep, and there's no problems at all, right?
No problems at all, man. I felt like we never left, you know?
Yeah.
Yesterday was a little bit weird, but today I feel a little bit back to normal. So all is good over here.
Yeah, I feel like it feels like a normal Monday, and a normal Monday never feels that great, you know, getting back into the swing of things. But I think this is the first day where like I know what day of the week it is, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean it's kind of easy how it's become that, especially given the circumstances of with the East Coast, West Coast, all of those things. But it doesn't matter because, hey, at the end of the day, we're still going to be here and still going to have plenty of things to talk about. And we'll get to your chats, folks. We appreciate each and every one of you tapping in. And I know that here over the next few weeks, it's going to be interesting to see for really all three major sports for Arkansas, because not only are we going to talk a lot about the Razorback baseball team and nice little sweep for them against Vanderbilt over the weekend, but spring football is a thing and it is going on. But I know a lot of people's focus, of course, is going to be on the transfer portal and what the Razorback basketball team is going to be doing. I know Kurt's going to be on top of that with Pot at the Palace and everything too. But is it weird, guys, that with the transfer portal, we know it's a relatively new thing still in college sports, but it's amazing how it's overtaken, at least here in Arkansas, the full focus and attention and intrigue of what maybe once was recruiting coming out of high school. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know I've talked to about, hey, what's Arkansas going to do with the portal? And Curtis, I know you've kind of been the same thing. It's almost like, okay, yeah, high school's great. You got these players, but hey, tell us about who they looking at, who's doing visits, who's doing the Zoom calls and everything. It's kind of it's a busy time of year, but a fun type of year because it's such a new but mysterious thing to where there may be some players that may end up on Arkansas's rosters next year that aren't even in the portal yet. It's so up in the air right now.
Yeah, I mean, that probably will be the case. I would anticipate that. I think we're getting close to maybe that second flood of entries coming into the portal. Like it opens and you get that first wave, and then it's usually about this time when the NCAA tournament field whittles down from 16 to 4, so there's only a few more teams playing, and you get another wave. And we've seen that even today with like Kansas's entire roster hitting the portal, and there's going to be more to come. And then there will be another one, you know, at the end of the national championship. And then it's a deal where teams start adding guys, and then guys who are on that team go, dang, they're replacing me. Screw this. I'm out of here. And then you get another wave of dudes who leave. So it's pretty cyclical, this. And I know that they've kind of narrowed the window down to 30 days, but you can commit at any time and you can enter up until the very last moment there. And grad transfers can enter whenever the heck they want. So this is something that's going to be fluid and ongoing. And yeah, I mean, why wouldn't people be excited about it from the Arkansas standpoint? Because Cal's kind of already got his two McDonald's All-Americans who are getting ready to lace him up and play in the burger game this week. And then we know they got the money, man. And if you got the money, then you can be excited about literally anyone who enters the portal, because that NIL right now, it's the great equalizer. So even somebody who enters and you're like, oh yeah, he's from this place, so he's probably easily connected to this school. Or, oh yeah, we're here and the buzz is right here. NIL is the great equalizer, man. And John Calipari's got that track record. So Arkansas is in on everybody until they go somewhere else, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think part of what people love about the transfer portal from a fan standpoint, and it's weird because I think I've never been a fan, even going back to like when I was a child. Like recruiting never really moved the needle for me. Like I wasn't a guy who got super into it. I kind of would keep up with what I needed to keep up with and all that. But I think even more people, even people like me who weren't big on recruiting, follow the portal as much as anything else, it's because your imagination gets to really run wild, and you can cook up all these different roster combinations and lineup combinations. And when John Calipari is your head coach, like you said, pretty much everything is on the table. And so for a fan, it's like this is the most exciting time of year because you can cook up whatever lineup imaginable, and your team actually might have a real chance to make it happen. But I know that while everyone's focus is always on the portal, and as fans, we tend to over or underrate the people on our own team and overrate people on other teams. I am still kind of waiting for more clarity, and I know we're going to get it here in the coming days and coming weeks. I think this is the weird time where Hog fans want to keep players on their team more than I think they ever have. Because most times, Hog fans, especially in basketball, they're like, get rid of that guy. That guy's going to the draft. Get rid of this guy. We can upgrade here. We can upgrade there. But I think I speak for a lot of Hog fans who really want to see some of these key pieces come back on this Razorback team. And so while we're doing the whole portal game, and it's always going to be fun, it's always going to be exciting to look at these possibilities. And like you said, they're going to continue to be more. I think the first big step is having a better understanding of what the Razorbacks have come back. And that's also very exciting for me to think about when I look ahead to next year's roster. And so right now, pretty much everything is on the table. Everything is up for grabs. And so I look forward to in a week, 2-3 weeks, when we have a little bit more clarity and we have a real idea of what Arkansas actually needs in the portal. Though I guess at this stage, you can't really be too picky.
Well, and also too, like just looking at it from the Razorback fan perspective, anytime that you're involved with being involved with the best, like what Arkansas basketball is now, there's suddenly not this thing where I feel like it this way in football and have for a very long time, that I can't get excited or as involved with football recruiting or transfer portal, because every single day I see, hey, so-and-so's entered into the transfer portal, or so-and-so is hearing from all these other schools, and it's never Arkansas. It's never one of these 5-star players or these big-time players that Arkansas is involved with, maybe a few here and there, but not really consistently. Where in basketball with John Calipari, and we know the NIL and all that stuff, suddenly any player, there is no player on this planet that is going to be playing college basketball next season that I feel like, oh, well, Arkansas, I don't like their chances in that. Not to say that they could just, pick and choose whoever they want, but as far as having an actual legit fighting chance for it, that's what makes it so exciting, is because if I see a big time player enter into the portal that I was like, oh man, that guy would be really fun to have. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe Cal gets him. Maybe it happens. Just having that type of confidence in the offseason and dealing with players and roster management is such a nice change of pace, and what really gives you confidence, not only for building a nice roster, but hey, as long as Cal is the coach, you're going to feel pretty good about constantly competing, not only for second weekends and Sweet 16s, but possible national championships as well.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And the retention is a big part of this, a key aspect of it, because it's kind of difficult right now, Andrew, to your point, to really determine where you need to spend the bulk of your money, like where you need to make your home run additions. The only thing we know for sure right now is Arkansas's got to go get a starting center, and they need shooting, and you could add that really anywhere. But if you look at the transfer portal, a lot of the real heavy hitters right now are point guards, combo guards. Two things that Arkansas is going to have a hell of a time selling a great player on, because you got Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas coming in. And then right now, like, you still got DJ Wagner there as well. So it's a little bit hard to say what they're going to need there. You look at the wing, and Arkansas has been connected to a lot of them. Keyshawn Hall out of Central Florida, who's a bucket. I mean, you average 18 and 8 in the Big 12, like, you can go get it, man. They're zooming with him. We hear about the Wilkerson kid as a knockdown shooter. Abdi Bashir, another one who I think he shot higher from three than he did from the field, but he made like 127 threes this year. So you're seeing them connected to a lot of wings, but you look at some of these guys and you're like, well, like Keyshawn Hall, for example, that's a starter. That's a big time player. Well, that wouldn't make sense if Carter Knox and Adu Thero, who allegedly that's on the table for a return, if both those guys come back. So you have to kind of wait to see what some of these guys do. And what's interesting about it is, like a guy like Thero, for example, I don't think he's a threat to go to the transfer portal. It's, are you going to go pro or not? And then if you declare, are you keeping the door open to maintain your eligibility? And then we do have to go through that whole waiting game until June or whatever. So it's going to require some patience, I think, for Razorback fans here, which is difficult because I've been trying to make that adjustment from the Eric Musselman way of operating in the portal, which is just so much different than like what anyone does, especially John Calipari. But he's just very methodical right now. He's really prioritizing his retention. And, it's just you want to get excited. You want that early splash and everything. Cal is like completely naive to what the fan base wants from this perspective. He was notorious for driving Kentucky fans crazy for like getting into, mid-June. And it's like you got 7 players and you're thinking, what the heck are we doing here? Then all of a sudden, like a couple years ago, they get Trey Johnson out of the portal out of nowhere. Antonio Reeves comes back. They pluck Big Z. And then all of a sudden they've got a really, really good roster right there. He always gets you a great roster on paper, but the man does it on his time. And then we got to operate on his clock for sure.
I think another thing to think about, and I think you make a good point in terms of the guys that Arkansas is going after, and you see the guys that Arkansas is connected to, and you start reading between the lines into what they might be looking to get compared to what they think they have returning. I think another thing that people overlook in this situation, one, obviously you want to get the best player available any chance you can. Of course, like we'd love to have the top 5 guys in the portal and just have it be that simple. But if you get guys like Carter Knox, guys like DJ Wagner, someone like a Duke Theros, certainly, even a guy like Billy Richmond, if those guys are going to come back to your program, they're not just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. And so I think sometimes people are going to look on paper and say, oh, well, Arkansas brought in, 3 portal guys, these 2 shooters and this big man. And, is that really that great of a portal class? It's like, but when you're talking about the money you're going to have to spend to get some of those guys back, to retain some of those pieces, it kind of all goes into it. And so, like you said, Curtis, he's kind of filled out this roster in different ways. Even if it might not look the way that we expect it to look, they usually find a way to make it look okay. We're going to be excited about this roster, no doubt about it. I just can't wait to see we get that first 1 or 2 dominoes out of the way here soon.
I always made the jokes about anytime that there was a player that maybe had some interest in Arkansas or connected with Arkansas, the way that some fans will rationalize it if they don't end up choosing Arkansas is like, we didn't want him anyways. I'm like, I feel like that is going to be elevated to another level with Cal and at Arkansas. If there's a guy that they're interested in, or maybe we're recruiting and he chooses somewhere else, it's like, we didn't want him anyways. Because how would you not want to play for Cal? I mean, come on. There's got to be something there. Maybe it's does he have some off the court issues? Just any way to justify it is the way fans is how they're going to do it. But that's what comes along with the expectation of having the strong NIL and having the strong amount of players that you're hoping to add from the transfer portal, which kind of goes into a little bit of our Alumni Hall question of the day, presented by Alumni Hall, the #1 Razorback shopping experience by far. For all the great Razorback apparel, especially now it's getting warmer outside for baseball season, head over to insidearkansas.com/Alumni Hall. Use promo code HOGS20. You'll get 20% off your purchase, or you can visit them in store at 3417 North College Avenue. And you can also use HOGS20 for 20% off. It's Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. So the question of the day simply was, with the Razorbacks currently on the roster, or at least the ones that are slated to return to Arkansas if they so pleased, or if they're wanted back or whoever, which one of those Razorback players would be your main priority? Which I love when I ask this question, I list players out. Everyone's like, all of them. Okay, thank you. Yes, but I'm talking about the main, the #1 priority. At 65%, not necessarily a surprise here, Carter Knox leads the way, followed by 22.5%, DJ Wagner being the next priority for some, Trevin Brazil being 10%, and others, which is at 2.5%. I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb and say that's Billy Richmond, because I felt like in the replies that was the big stat right there, or at least the big response there. So again, not necessarily surprising, but it feels like Carter Knox is the one that the Razorback fans that's the one that they'll really feel good about. You want all of them, but he's the one that you make sure you got to have, because you don't want to see him playing anywhere else, especially not in the SEC.
Yeah. Carter Knox just seems like the no-brainer answer here for me. And I would really need a compelling argument to believe otherwise. I just think he's going to be really, really good next year. Like the freshman to sophomore leap with him, I think could be significant. And we're talking about an all SEC kind of guy here. And I'm excited for that possibility for sure. I will say, I don't want to get into every single player here, but it's so interesting how this stuff fluctuates throughout the course of the season. Because, yesterday, if anybody was over on the Dixon Discord, we spent a lot of time talking about some of the murmurings out there. And there's, I'm not saying where there's smoke, there's fire, but it's at least something to consider as being on the table about a potential return by a Duke Thero. And on the surface, you look at that and you're like, okay, this is your leading scorer, your leading rebounder, should have been an all SEC player. He's your most versatile defensive player. He works the hardest of anyone on the team. He'd be a fourth-year player under John Calipari. And the resounding sentiment in that Discord was, "Now we'd rather have Trevor Brazile." Like, what do you mean? What are we
What a
talking
time,
about?
man.
Bring Trevor Brazile back. The offense was so much better with him. I love TB, man. I want him back. And if he's balling like he was at the end of the season, that would be incredible, man. And I agree. I mean, I talked about it a lot, how his ability to stretch the floor and knock down threes, open up those driving lanes and everything. But we're talking about your best player. And so it's wild because hell, not even a month ago, 2-3 weeks ago, a lot of people were looking at TB going, they don't need to ever put this dude on the floor again. It's crazy how quickly things can shift, not just in the landscape of the transfer portal, but in retention on who you want back and who you don't, because it's a completely different story now than it was maybe in January or even February. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also, I like with Brazile and Thero, are we sure it's like an either or thing? I know they both kind of play the four spot, but it's like, I mean, I'm sure it is in terms of finances and all that, but I'm like, that's a very weird comparison because they're just kind of two very different players with very different skill sets. And so, yeah, who knows with the likelihood of getting either one of those guys back, but particularly Thero, that's definitely an interesting development. But I think going back to the Carter Knox thing, he's the no-brainer answer here. One, just because he's a freshman with a ton of upside. We saw him kind of grow up in real time. Think about how much better Carter Knox is now than he was 3 months ago, 5 months ago. And so you can kind of let your imagination run wild and think, hey, what will this guy look like in 6 months or in 9 months or even 12 months? And so that's exciting. I also think from a culture standpoint, one, I love his mentality, love his personality. But I think having a guy who, as a freshman, played in the Sweet 16, you bring him back. We'll see what he does as a sophomore, but he's going to be forged by that experience. And that kind of sentiment is why I had DJ Wagner as number 2, because I think from a culture standpoint, having a guy like that who's been through the ups and downs of college basketball, learned a lot in his first 2 years, I think keeping guys like that around, and by the way, Adu Thero would 1,000%, like without a shadow of a doubt, check those boxes as well. In fact, you'd probably see a very motivated Adu Thero who would be like dying to get back out there and really have an impact in the NCAA tournament. I think that stuff really matters, especially for your program and whatever you're trying to build at Arkansas. And you just look around the tournament, almost all these teams have 2, 3, 4-year guys that have been back, been in the program, been kind of developing that way. And so I think Carter Knox checks kind of every box of the upside, the culture, the fit. Also, is there a player in the country that you would look at and you would say, he's not a good fit next to Carter Knox? I don't think so. I mean, a guy that's a wing that isn't particularly ball dominant, it became so much better as a defender, can probably guard a few different spots. I don't really think there's a single player in the country that like could not coexist with Carter Knox. That's not necessarily the same thing, the same case for even a guy like DJ, a guy like Adu Thero, even a guy like Trevor Brazile. But I think Carter, it does kind of apply. So I think I agree with him being the ultimate no-brainer answer. But yeah, if Adu Thero's on the table, I feel like he's got to be way, way up that list. And I would have him 1A, 1B with Carter Knox.
It is funny. Like, I feel like, this season obviously had its ups and downs. But as far as just players having ups and downs, I feel like DJ Wagner was not saying he was perfect, not saying that nobody ever criticized him, but I felt like DJ Wagner was the one player that maybe didn't have as much of a time or a phase of hate of like, or I shouldn't say even hate, but just frustrations and like, hey, this guy's not good, get him out of the game, all of that. Because if you look at every player on this roster, it seemed like there was a stretch this season where everyone felt that way about that player. We know Nelly Davis went through that. Jonas Adu. We know Trevin Brazile. Boogie Fland, even though he played limited minutes, it just seemed like DJ may have been the one constant of that all as far as players getting criticized or whatever. But I guess, again, makes sense because of the up and down season. DJ
Wagner just very much is what he is, man. Yep. And there are times where people are super endeared by that, like what he did against Mississippi State and stepping up into that point guard role in the back half of the year and everything. And then there are times where people want to, push him right under the bus, like the end of that game against Texas Tech the other day. So I love the idea of having DJ back as the veteran in the backcourt with these super talented young guys coming back. But I'm also not naive to the way they would have to navigate that, because if DJ Wagner comes back, he is going to start and he is going to play 35 minutes per game. How does that work when you have a guy like Acuff, who is an absolute bona fide stud at the point guard position? Malik Thomas, who's a McDonald's All-American at the 2. And it's not necessarily a backcourt where you could play the three of those guys together as a trio. Like they would really have to figure some things out, or just not play DJ as much. But John Calipari is just not going to do that. So I get it. Like there'd be some things they have to navigate, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives for me personally, pretty easily, actually.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'll get to your chat here in just a second, folks. But did want to pass this along because I know some of you were mentioning it in the chat. Nate Ament, which I hear is a player of note that people are wanting. This is being reported as we're live here from Adam Zagoria, that he will not announce tomorrow, but didn't name a time or date to announce among his top 5. So
the April 1st date was placed. He didn't say that was placed on him. I've been telling people for weeks now that was not a set in stone date. So everyone reacting to this shouldn't be. It's just
should be listening to Pod at the Palace.
He wanted to announce around that time. Of course he does. It's like the end of the season. It's the McDonald's All-American game. That was never a 100% locked in date. And honestly, like I'm over it with this recruitment too. I'm just being honest. Like, I mean, it's been dragging on for months and months and months and months and months and back and forth. And he's going there. Oh, he's going here. No, he's leveraging so-and-so for a raise or whatever. Just whoever he commits to, congratulations. Like it tells you something when Trilly Donovan just throws the towel in on your recruitment and he's like, whatever, like wherever this guy winds up, that's cool. That's saying something. I'm in the same boat right now. Like if he winds up a Hog, wow, man, that's a massive talent that's coming into play for you. If he doesn't, good luck wherever you're going, dude. But just let me know when you're ready to make something official. I mean, it's ridiculous at this point.
I'm sure there's an example. I'm sure there's actually a ton of examples of like people who have these weird recruitments that end up being really awesome. But you know who it reminds me of? I know this is a transfer last year. It's giving me a little bit of Coleman Hawkins vibes.
Yeah.
Is that the right name I'm thinking of?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes.
The state.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, very different people, different situations, but it's like anytime you have there's some kids that really love the recruitment process, love the game, love the whatever. And it's just very interesting. I'll just say that.
And like with Caleb Wilson, who was another one who had a very similar type of recruitment, and he's going to, I think, North Carolina now. Arkansas was in there for the longest, and it was he's visiting. No, he's not. He's going here instead. No, he's not. He's done taking visits. He's going here. I mean, it's just one thing after another. That felt a little bit more volatile than this does. Like if you listen to Nate Ament, super sharp kid, very, very smart, cerebral. Like I don't think there's any baggage concerns or anything like that, but and hey, each kid can make whatever decision they want. But in terms of the way this is drug on and on and on and on and on, for me, I'm just kind of like, cool, man. Like when you're ready to announce, we'll talk to you at that point.
There has never been a time where I've like felt envious of someone who covers recruiting. Someone who does it for a living. It's awful, and it takes a very special individual to do it. But this type of stuff is what would make me. It would be like the worst thing of recruiting. It's just like, all right, dude, just make a freaking decision so we can all move on with our lives. But as you said, Andrew, and it's 100% true. There's some people that just love the attention, they love the process, love the little ins and outs and stuff. And not saying that every situation's like that, but there is a case, and there's also no perfect world where everyone's like, hey, remember when Darren McFadden, he didn't even take Fizz. He just said, I'm going to Arkansas as a junior, or Bobby Portis, and just never wavered. Okay, but that's few and far between. You got to have something in the middle. But yeah, I don't want the labor pains anymore. I just want the baby.
I feel you. And I will say the longer this drags out, the more it feels like Arkansas is still involved.
Yeah,
so if you want him, like if you're big on that, then, this should give you a reason to smile or whatever. But my goodness, man.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, there was a point where I remember Anthony Black during his recruitment. We all thought Arkansas was out of it at one point, and then it kept dragging out. Then all of a sudden you're like, hell, Arkansas actually might have a chance here. And so, yeah, it's one of those things. But like you said, Curtis, it's become we've circled the wagons. We've done the cat and mouse game for so long. He'll tell us when he's ready to tell us, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't see any unless John Tyson just like lost his checkbook. Like I just don't see any reason why there's never a player that's going to be completely out of the running if Arkansas and Cal actually want said player. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get a little vibe check and get into your chats, folks, presented by Basis Health, where they're changing the way healthcare is delivered by providing mobile medical visits to the comfort of your very own home. ahead of the times and really forward thinking here with Basis Health, where a doctor can come to your home for urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and so much more. I mean, nobody hates going to the doctor's office more than literally everyone. So let them come to you with Basis Health, where they're there when you need them and where you need them the most. You can learn more today at basishealth.org. All right, so getting a few of your chats. We'll get to your super chats first. Appreciate y'all, but shout out to David. Appreciate the super chat. Says, sorry for my hiatus, guys. I need a short break to deal with the heartache. Let's move on to baseball and portal season. Thank you for everything you do, Hogs by 90. Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Love that.
Good mentality. He's like, I just needed to get my bearings about me for a few days.
Yep. But I know we were talking about it yesterday. I think it was yesterday. No, 2 days ago when we were on our way home. Again, I don't know what time is. We're just so glad that Texas Tech did not beat Florida, because that would have made that so much worse. So at least we have that to hang our hats on. Shout out to JP. Appreciate you, man. He goes, isn't it awesome that we even get to have these conversations about these amazing players coming to little old Arkansas? We are living in awesome times, Hog fans. Don't take it for granted. And yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, JP. It's just nice to have that. Not to say that no one ever wanted to come before. I mean, Eric Musselman did a good job in recruiting and portal, and it was really fun. But to know that just there's not a single player out there that you look at and be like, oh yeah, we have no chance at him or even being in the fight for him. It's a good feeling. It must be like what Bama and LSU and Georgia football feel like all the time, you know? Just always knowing you have a puncher's chance. It's a good feeling. Let's see. Hunt OZK is still struggling with not fouling up 3. Is this the elephant in the room since Cal's potential 2008 Natty thing? Same thing happened. Thoughts?
I understand the sentiment, guys. I really do, but I'll just reiterate that not all foul up 3 situations are created equal. I mean, it's a completely different situation when the possession starts with 24 seconds on the clock, like that one did, versus 11. Mm-hmm. It's just totally different, because if you foul them with 19 seconds left, that really kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish there. That foul needs to take place with single digit, seconds left on the clock. The shot got off before that point. It's like, I really don't think it was that controversial at all. And frankly, had they closed harder and, forced Darian Williams to put it on the deck, then maybe they would have fouled at that point. But instead you had a contested 3 from a guy who was 1 of 9 from beyond the arc going into that shot, and he knocked it down. But I think it's a circumstantial thing. It's easy to be like, oh, you foul up 3, why not? And I know a lot of people threw a fit about it. And even in the moment, we were talking about it in the post game, but if you really go back and look at it, I really don't think it was a bad call at all, honestly.
I appreciate the super chat, Hunt, but I also love saying, is it the elephant in the room? Like, what do you mean the elephant in the room? Because it happened 17 years ago to Cal, and then it happened again here. Like, I mean, should they have fouled? Like, we can have the conversation, but I don't think it's like a big picture stain on the program and stain on Calipari's legacy that's going to affect the offseason. I think it's a thing that happened in the game, just like there's things that happen in the last 3 minutes of every game, and maybe next time in this situation, Cal will foul. Like, I don't know, but I wouldn't call it like an elephant in the room that's going to like stick with the program for multiple years. It'll be something that Hog fans will think about, because we think about every loss. But in terms of like big picture impact of anything, I don't really think that's a thing.
No, especially given how I feel like there's a lot of other things that are maybe more important or more impactful in the late part of that game than not fouling up 3. There's other things. Also, Hunt OZK, I'm not making fun of you at all, but that is a brave dude to put your license plate as your profile picture, as your username. There's a lot going on there, my man. So shout out to you, though. He's big on that Hunt OZK, though. It's for the brand, baby, for the brand. Cade, appreciate it, man. He says, everyone take Auburn to win the championship at plus 475 and Saracen in honor of our friend Quinn. It's funny, Cade, because I did that exact thing. I did take him at plus 475. Lowest odds of any of the teams left in the Final Four.
I'm telling you, Auburn's been getting disrespected, like as disrespected as a number 1 overall seed can get. Not that necessarily they've had the clearest path to the Final Four of all time, but it's just weird because like about 6 weeks ago, we were all kind of in unanimous agreement that they were the best team in the country, that they were the team to beat, and maybe they're not that anymore, but I feel like they are kind of like. They're like, people view them as like kind of an underdog going into this Final Four, and it's interesting.
Yeah,
they own the state of Michigan.
Sure do.
They do that.
Hard to deny that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good state to own because they do have good basketball there in the state of Michigan. So not a bad state. But we'll talk about the Final Four and the matchups there here in a bit too. Let's see another few things here on the chat. Actually, never mind, because some of these we've already addressed with the Nate Ament announcement. But let's see. Oh yeah, Chris Cox says, guys, what about Big Z?
What about him?
I'm just indifferent.
Yeah, I am too.
Like I just don't think that you can put all your eggs in the Big Z basket anymore. I think there's room for him to grow and develop and mature and improve. You get excited because of the upside, which we saw for that stretch of about 2 weeks where he just looked incredible and unstoppable. But there were, in fairness, large stretches of the season where he was virtually unplayable. Yeah. And it's going to be a matchup dependent thing for him in a lot of scenarios. I would love for Arkansas to have him back and have him in the front court rotation. But I can't look at him and be like, yo, you have to get him back or pencil him into a starting role at the 5 or whatever. They absolutely have to go out and get some help there. And if he's part of the equation, if he's a piece to that puzzle, I'm cool with it. But had he have just finished the year as hot as he was on that stretch, and I'm not saying scoring 27 points per game or whatever, but just really cementing himself as the guy, as opposed to getting completely supplanted by Jonas Adu, then maybe I'd feel a little bit better about it. But I don't know, maybe you guys feel differently, but the inconsistency for me just kind of has me on the, yeah, it'd be cool if you get him back, but not the end of the world if you don't kind of deal.
Yeah, I feel like indifferent is a good way to describe it. And look, obviously we love Big Z as a person. I actually even like his skill set as a player, believe it or not. And I think there's clearly a path to him being a good, productive player, not only in the SEC, but this is a guy that, probably won't get drafted based on how the year played out, but a guy that is on the NBA radar for a reason. I think I said this to you guys off air. I'm weird. I would probably be equally satisfied if Big Z left the program and went somewhere else. It wouldn't bother me. It also wouldn't bother me if they brought in his brother and did that. You know what I mean? One of those things where I'm like, I could kind of talk myself in either way, but I agree. I don't think that Big Z is a huge piece of this offseason puzzle where it's everything's going to be around him and we got to make room for him and you got to do everything you can to keep him. And I don't think it's going to be that devastating if he leaves. I think it's just kind of, if you get him back, cool. You got to develop him. Hope you can get the best version out of him. But if he wants to explore other options, I don't think Hog fans will necessarily lose sleep over it.
Well, and also too, both things can be true at the same time, where it doesn't have to be, well, this guy sucks, I want him gone, or this guy's a must-have, we can't lose him. But sometimes people just feel that way with players, where if you say you're fine with him moving on, be like, oh, you must hate him, and you must think he sucks. No. Sometimes it's about, having the right guy for the right situation. And I'm sorry, I like Big Z. And there were stretches, like you said, Kersey, he looked great. But man, it's his highs were high, but his lows were low. It was really low. And I just have a hard time believing that you couldn't go and find a player that's just as good, if not better, at what he can do and move on from it if that ended up happening. I don't think it's we all see how are we going to replace a big man shooting threes, or whatever. I think it's a replaceable deal, but yeah, at the end of the day, I just trust Cal. As crazy as it is, I know it's mind blowing, but I trust Cal. If he wants him, he's going to find a way to keep him. If he doesn't, then hey, move on. But I think they'll be okay with or without Big Z next season. They will be okay. Also, like this question from Marvin says, if we return literally everyone but Boogie next year with Acuff and Thomas coming in, is that a number 1 preseason team?
Well, I mean, hell, if you added an impact center and then one sharpshooter, I don't know if it'd be the number 1 preseason team, but it'd be up there. I mean, that's a lot of retention off of a Sweet 16 team, and you got 2 McDonald's All-Americans, and then you add a really good portal piece or two. It would definitely be top 10.
Yeah,
maybe top 5, honestly, because there's so much. You think about Bama and Auburn and Kansas, all these teams are losing their entire freaking roster. So to have that retention and some star power, it'd be up there.
Yeah, you said it there. You would still need a couple things because you think bring everyone back and add in a couple guys. You think, oh, okay, that would be a full roster, but it would still be a couple things you need. But yeah, that would be that'd be ideal if you ask me.
Yep. Well, I also liked some of the players, of course, you mentioned them looking at right now, like Keyshawn Hall. I just laughed because I had to look at it about 3 times, maybe even 4 times, and seeing if there was a typo and saying he was a guard because he's 6'7", 240 pounds.
Yeah,
He's a big dude. And I was like, okay, is he really like a guard? Maybe he's like a I tried to check, but that's the type of stuff that obviously the 19 and 7 is pretty nice too. Yeah. But having a guy that's talking about big, bulk, strong dude playing at the guard position at 6'7", 240 is also kind of a cool thing as well.
His game is definitely closer to a Carter Knox than it is like a traditional power forward or something. But this is where I get so irritated when there's arguments over he's a 3, he's a 4, no, you're an idiot. People just get so caught up on that position thing. What he is a 4 in a 4-guard lineup. And then you're absolutely cooking and your spacing is awesome there. Or you just play him at the 3. But yeah, he is a large man to have the skill set that he does for sure. He cooked. Yeah, he absolutely cooked in the Big 12. I remember watching him in the Big 12 tournament when they almost beat Kansas in like the first round there or the second day or whatever the heck it was. And he gave those dudes a business. He's good, man.
Yeah. I was just looking at some of his stats. I mean, the guy had 34 points at Oklahoma State, 22 points against Iowa State, who was a 2 seed overall. You mentioned Kansas, 34 points. Yeah, he was a pretty good player. He'd be really nice to have. But folks, just because he's 6'7", 240, which was about the same size that Corliss Williamson was in the 90s, does not mean that he's going to be a Corliss Williamson type player. So saw that already. It's like, oh, well, that's Corliss size. A little different, a little different of a situation there. But also, I know everybody's wanting to know about the extended family of Curtis Wilkerson, Lamar Wilkerson, who is also into the portal, 6'5", 205 from Ashdown. So he's a local kid. You get to, you want a little Arkansas flavor. There you go. You have a possibility of getting a guy that just to average a mere 21 and 4 over there at Sam Houston State. So Curtis, do what you can to get your family here, man. Family stays together.
Working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah, good deal. Also, BTC PAC says, we need to build a Final Four roster. Nate Ament will mess that up. He's way too skinny.
He's a wing. So, like, I don't know. He's a 6'9" wing who's projected to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft next year. Chad Baker-Mazara is, 6'7", 160 pounds, and he's pretty good on a Final Four team right now. I know he's older, but I think, again, people might see the 6'9" attached to his height and think he's going to be in there banging on the block and, trying to post guys up or whatever, but that's not really his game for sure. I think you can have other guys who will be the punishers or the enforcers or whatever. I don't think an incoming freshman being skinny is what keeps you from being a Final Four type of roster, personally.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't disqualify them from going out and getting like an actual center. They're definitely still going to do that. Now he may hurt the budget in terms of trying to go get that center.
He would definitely do that,
right? But and like, look, I'd give my whole thing. Like, I'm not like living and dying with Nate Ament either. But I definitely don't think he would like get in the way of the rest of the roster build.
No, I laugh at that. Not just calling you out, BTC, but just people were like, he's too skinny. He's 17 years old or whatever. Like, what? I mean, come on.
Also, we're playing the sport of basketball. Like I understand you need some physicality. Not like you need 7 big guys.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, how many players are true freshmen All-Americans that come in and dominate? Like, is Cooper Flagg just this big old dude? I mean, he's good size and everything, but it's not like he's just massive. And all that. So I don't understand the weight thing for true freshmen. Now, if it's a transfer who's in his 5th year and it's something, okay, maybe there's something to that, but I just don't think that you can just take that and be, oh man, he's too small. Bad thing. Also, I wanted to bring this up from Tuna's House of Influence. It says, is it because Tyson's money is strictly basketball money, harder to compete in football? I'm going to answer your question with a different answer to a different question I'm going to ask, Tuna, but to try to answer your question, the majority of Tyson's money goes towards basketball, but it goes towards other things too in NIL. But to me, and I'm not trying to speak for old John Tyson here, but if I was the guy who had that type of money and with Cal and all that, I would rather go put all my eggs in one basket in one major sport and let that be the case. Like, not to say I wouldn't give anything to anything, but if I was like, all right, $10 million to one sport to be awesome, or $10 million to spread it around and give it to other sports to be maybe okay. Now, give me all, I would do all the money into basketball, and it's a lot easier, goes a lot further. And, I feel like with having a Hall of Fame coach makes it a lot easier too. So,
not to mention, not that you know exactly how it'll be spent, but John Calipari has like a track record of recruiting at an elite level, has a track record of getting big time prospects. And so it's like, if you're John Tyson, it's probably less of a risk because hey, if I give this guy some money, like we're gonna have a pretty damn good basketball roster. Not saying you don't have that guarantee in other sports. Not saying anything about any other coaches, but giving money to John Calipari is a little bit different than giving money to Sam Pittman.
Yes, that's
and also it does cost more in football. If you want to build a championship roster in football, that's like a $25-30 million decision rather than a $10 to $12 million decision.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just gonna say real quick. Well, and then I'll address this.
Okay.
Lamar Wilkerson. I was looking for the tweet after you brought him up, but from Deshaun London over at 24/7 Sports, he said that he's done Zooms with Auburn and Kansas, had an in-person with Ole Miss, and is visiting SMU on Wednesday. So naturally, everybody's like, "Oh shit, Arkansas's out on him." Dang, that sucked. No, they're not. Arkansas has been in contact with that dude since before he hit the transfer portal. So, what it's going to come down to, honestly, is John Calipari give him the green light. That's it. Cal pulls the trigger, and you get him in for a visit or whatever, and meet the asking price. You'll get him. And if not, then you won't. I mean, it's that simple. But no, I unless something happened like in the last couple hours, then Arkansas is not out on it for sure.
It's just nice to have. And then you can respond to the BTC comment here.
Here's my thing. First of all, this is an overtime elite player, and so it's just a different kind of basketball. And if you think he's going to be taking the same shots at Arkansas that he's doing at overtime elite, well, you would be wrong. I mean, that's just not the way that it's going to be. So there's that part of it. But then you're talking about the All-American game, the McDonald's All-American practice. Please, I am begging you guys, do not watch these individual showcase games and start talking to me about shot selection or start drawing big conclusions about a player's prospects based on what you see from that. And they're playing with a bunch of guys they've never played with before. They're playing in front of NBA scouts. They're playing on ESPN. These dudes are all out there trying to get theirs in this game. It's not a reflection of what you're going to see at Arkansas. I get it. I'm sure he was forcing some in there, and he's also a bucket getter. And so that's part of what he does, but don't tie the two together and get this preconceived thing in your head. I'm not saying you're necessarily doing that, but I'm just giving you a fair warning. This is what happens in these showcase games every year. And we have these conversations about it every year. It'll be okay. I promise.
Yeah. I mean, one of the main clips from that practice was like when they were doing the 1-on-1, 2-on-2 drills or whatever, which, like, not saying that's useless, but it's like you said, it's not really meant to be a proper showcase of what this guy's going to look like in the SEC. You mentioned the overtime elite aspect too. What better person to learn under than Carter Knox, who literally just made that same transition and had to kind of have that same type of rethinking of how they approach the game and all that. There's things to talk about with Malik Thomas, but practice clips from McDonald's All-American is not going to be one of them.
No. And I get that. Not to say every player is going to hit. I understand that. No coach is perfect, but I just keep going back to, man, I trust Cal. Like Cal, I just don't think Cal's he's like, oh, I saw this guy in the showcase and man, he hogged the ball and was too much about himself. We're not going to recruit him. Like he knows what great talent looks like. He knows how he can make players better. He knows. So I'm going to trust him. No offense. Not some clip that's going around on Twitter. Like I'm going to trust Cal and his coaching staff evaluation because I would hope that Cal didn't be like, oh, hey, Chin, did you see this guy? Wow, I've never heard of this guy. Offer this kid. I just saw 10 seconds of him making threes. Let's get him on. Let's get him on board. I think there's probably a little bit more in depth scouting that his staff is doing more so than any of us, probably all combined put together. So, all right, let's we got a few things. We'll get to your chats here in a little bit, folks. But we can move on to a little bit of the heavy hitters here on Inside Arkansas. It's presented by HD Roofing and Construction. Storms can hit unexpectedly, which I know some storms went through the state of Arkansas, some tornadoes and everything from yesterday. So hopefully everyone's all right and staying safe out there. But it's that time of year, and it's getting closer to the worst time of year where they can hit unexpectedly. So be sure to contact HD Roofing for your peace of mind with a free inspection. When you choose HD Roofing, you can rely on professionalism, top quality materials, expert installation for all of your roofing needs. You can find out more at hdarkansas.com. That's hdarkansas.com. Okay, so I have actually two heavy hitters, but I'll just give the one. I want to give out a heavy hitter to a guy that's really been on top of it when it comes to transfer portal stuff and has been for a while, and maybe I don't give him enough credit, but Joe Tipton, what he does on social media when it comes to the transfer portal, football, basketball, and all that. I know he did the graphics and everything, but I love how he has become that guy, just the guy that is able to put those things out there. And we talked about recruiting and talked about how much it's annoying to cover. I don't know how people do it, but the fact that he is on top of it, I can't imagine what that job's like and dealing with that and having to, well, who's committing, who's not committing, who's visiting, all that stuff. So, in this business, we have a lot of people out there that try to, do things and cover things and certain teams, certain sports, certain things, all of that. But I just want to give him a shout out, and as well as a lot of other people out there that cover this stuff, because it ain't easy. There's a lot going on. And I know that I feel bad for Curtis because Curtis, you could just probably do a live stream for 4 straight hours of just people saying, well, what about this guy? And you have to answer it. So, but it's people like that and do that. They deserve a lot of credit and a lot of stuff. So shout out to Joe Tipton and everybody that covers this stuff, because I sure don't want to.
Tipton knows. And when I started on the beat, Tipton wasn't like affiliated with anyone. He was just the guy who made the graphics for the commitment folks. And so he really got out the mud, man, and made it to where he is. And it was a brilliant move by On3 when they started up to pull him in, because it's not about if you're a ball knower in the recruiting world. And I don't even know if Tipton's a ball knower or not, but what he does know is recruiting, and he has connections, and the guys respect him. And he built a lot of trust with guys like, hey, I'll make your graphic. Don't worry. I promise I won't tell you anything, or I won't leak your information or whatever. And he's been good for it. And now people trust him and look at him like he is the guy when it comes. He's like the Woj of, college basketball or whatever, or Shams now, I guess, since Woj is in college basketball. But no, he does a good job. For sure. And it's funny, you mentioned the live stream. It's true. Like, I've gotten to the point where I record the Pot at the Palace late at night, like right before I go to bed. And then by the time I wake up in the morning, there are already updates or like things change that I've said just overnight. When you wake up, it's like, oh, something's changed. This guy's going here instead, whatever. And what are you going to do? I mean, it's fluid the way that this goes. And man, the information moves so much faster in the portal than it does in high school recruiting. But I'll stick with the theme and my heavy hitter. And I wasn't entirely sure where I was going to go with this until just now. But it's Yakel Lindborg, the 6'9" forward out of UAB, who just hit the transfer portal. Is probably going to be a top 5, if not number 1 prospect in the transfer portal. This is a dude. If you roll back with us to the Natty State days, he was the guy on the portal big board with me and Scotty. I mean, we've been on this for a minute, and the fact that he went back to UAB this past season, I thought was crazy, because he would have got a bag. Now he's declared for the draft, as he should, but is also in the transfer portal. This is a dude who is going to be coveted. He's big time, man. 6'9", 240. You can play him at the 5. You can play him at the 4. You can really play him wherever you want. He averaged 17.7 points, 11.4 rebounds per game. That's a lot. He also averaged 4.2 assists per game, so point forward type of stuff there. He shot 52% from the field, and he shot 35, almost 36% from 3. The dude does a little bit of everything. It's crazy. If Arkansas is going to drop an absolute bag on somebody in the front court, I think it needs to be this guy. He's going to be highly coveted. He almost went to St. John's under Mike Anderson, and I assume that they're going to be on him because he's a Jersey guy. Auburn's going to be on him. Bama's going to be on him. Kansas is going to be on him. But Arkansas's got that bag also.
Real quick, Curtis, say his name again.
Yakel Lindborg.
I wanted a name. I wanted a good name. Yakel is going to be tough to beat if he came to Arkansas. But just saying, yeah, that's a true heavy. Maybe not even a heavy hitter, but a true heavy is what he
stud,
is.
Man.
Is it my turn now for a heavy hitter?
Absolutely.
Well, as always, I've got to make us talk about the diamond. And what a time to talk about Arkansas baseball. I mean, they're 26-3, just came off of a huge sweep against Vanderbilt. There are no shortage of candidates for heavy hitter when it comes to this Arkansas baseball team, specifically in the hitting department, which they've been doing a lot of. Only scored a mere 22 runs this past weekend against the top pitching staff in the SEC. Not a big deal. I am actually not going to go with a hitter, though. I'm going with a young man named Ben Bybee, who Curtis once dubbed his stepson when we were drunk in Little Rock one time. But Ben Bybee, I'm really proud of not only just the way he pitched, but just his journey as a Razorback. There's one thing Arkansas baseball fans hate more than anything. They hate when players stay in the program. The longer a player stays in the program at Arkansas, the more they dislike them, the more they find things that they don't like about them, and they just kind of want to move on. Kind of like we were saying earlier with the portal. You always just kind of look at your roster and you're like, we can upgrade this spot. We can upgrade this spot. Get this guy out of there. We can get someone better. And I feel like Ben Bybee's kind of been a victim of that. Been at Arkansas for 3 years now, kind of been slowly but surely working his way up. Obviously started his career as a midweek starter. We joked earlier this year that like he might just be stuck in that midweek starter role. It was just going to be one of those things where it's like, can he ever get over that hump and be a true weekend arm for Arkansas? We all kind of wondered, is he going to take that next step? But the thing is, the dude just keeps going out there, getting better, working on his game. He's gotten better every year. I mean, his numbers from freshman to sophomore year, he took a nice little step forward. He's taken another nice little step forward this year. Him and Parker Coyle are two guys that when I would bring them up in the preseason, people would get mad and they'd be like, if we want to be serious, these guys cannot be pitching for us. Well, you look up, Parker Coyle's got a 0.60 ERA, and now he's at a point where when he misses a game, people are panicking because of how valuable he is. Ben Bybee in SEC play, 7 scoreless innings, and the last 5 of which have been very high leverage, legitimate innings. He came into a 3-2 game yesterday in the 6th inning. Arkansas ends up winning 7-3. Like, he shut the door completely, and it's good to see him kind of sticking with it. He could have gone anywhere else in the country. He could have been a weekend starter somewhere else in the SEC if he had wanted to. How I look around the league, I see all these SEC teams that don't have anybody that could pitch. He definitely could have gone somewhere else and gotten more run, but he wanted to be a part of this program, wanted to help out the best way he could. And I'm just, really happy for him, happy for his family that he stuck with it and that he's being rewarded, man. It's cool to see players develop over the course of 3-4 years. We don't really get to see that as much in college sports these days, but I always want to celebrate it when it happens. So shout out to Ben Bybee. He's a hog for life, man.
Yeah, no, he was great. And also me and Andrew were talking before the show started. I was like, I'm going to add a baseball one because I know that he does baseball. So I made sure that we didn't have the same one. But how about Kojiel, man? The guy returns to Vanderbilt and goes, 3 for 5 in game 1? It was 1 for 4 and 1 for 3 in respective games, but brought in 9 RBIs over the weekend. Which was, as Andrew pointed out, more than Vanderbilt scored as an entire team over the weekend. So, he was awesome. And I think that that was great. But the main reason I wanted to bring it up is because so often, especially in the portal days now, you see players that go and return back to the school that they played at or, at some point, whatever it is. And I'm sure that there's a lot of emotions that go through that, like pressures as well. And to see him come up big there in the ballpark, not just against the former team, but in the ballpark that he was at, and to come up as big as he did was awesome and impressive because obviously the lights aren't too bright for him, but still the Hogs, they're looking good right now. And it's just, I would say that they're one of the best teams in the country, but that midweek last week, I just can't do it. They're trashing.
It is worth noting. By the way, absolute dump of a ballpark, that Hawkins Field. They are renovating it soon, I'm told. But good Lord, dude, it's the worst venue in the SEC outside of Como. Como, I'll make that very clear clarification. That park sucks. It's literally underneath their football stadium. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Their football bleachers are up here and the field is underneath it. It's the craziest thing ever, and it's just a weirdly shaped park. And I don't like it.
Well, let me just say that there was a lot of Razorback fans at those games over the weekend. Heard some hog calls. Pretty evidently. So, but the Razorbacks are rolling. We'll talk a little bit more about them and some other things, but let's go ahead and jump into your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. Already mentioned it, but the Razorbacks sweep Vanderbilt first time since '94. And also the first time of winning the series there in Nashville since 2010. So not too shabby for the Razorback baseball team. Also, shout out to Zach Root, the left-handed pitcher who was named SEC pitcher of the week. So fair enough, though. He was pretty good. I mean, 7 and 7 1/3 scoreless innings, and then 7 strikeouts. Not too bad. Not too bad for him. So congrats. But you have that. But also, of course, on the basketball side of things, few players we've already mentioned them as ones that Arkansas may be in on in the transfer portal. But you're talking about Keyshawn Hall. Lamar Wilkerson is an obvious one. I just want all the players. That's really what it is. I know you can only have 13 or whatever it is, but I want them all. And hopefully that ends up happening for Arkansas. But there's going to be more. Nate Ament, for all you wondering, just to let you know, it's not going to be announced tomorrow like originally thought. So just, be patient, wait out for it, but time will come. I am wondering, though, guys, at what point do we hear about the current Razorbacks and whether or not they're going or staying or all that? I wonder what the timeline is going to look like for that.
I can't believe you made it through a list of Arkansas targets without bringing up my man Big Mo Rez Johnson out of Illinois. I mean, he's the dude everybody's been begging for the longest, right? He's 6'9", 255 pounds, and he's like a mini Sheboy out there, just running around like a madman, bulldozing people, grabbing rebounds. Arkansas is hot to trot on him, so I'll be really anxious to see what happens there. Sounds like obviously a long list of folks, but Arkansas is kind of at the top early on with Michigan. That'll be fun. Then you mentioned the retention here. This seems to be the day where everything's really getting started, at least in terms of teams that just kind of got out of the NCAA tournament and, maybe guys hitting the portal or whatever. So if guys are going to leave, we're probably going to find out about that pretty soon. Hopefully the guys who are going to stay announce that, because sometimes they don't. Like, we won't know about DJ Wagner. He didn't even announce that he committed anywhere. We just randomly found out. So you never know about those guys, but I think it's going to start happening here real soon. I know that they've spent the weekend and just really diving into who are we going to be able to get back, who do we want back, what's it going to cost, and then we'll take it from there. So I would imagine that this week we'll wind up getting a lot more clarity. And hell, we've already had some roster movement. I gave some flowers to my man Cash Chavis on the pot at the Palace this morning. I want to do it again. He's transferring. Played in one game, got one bucket, but he was absolutely the coordinator of vibes on that bench and in the locker room. Funny guy, the best dancer on the team, and you need guys like that. He was good for the locker room, good for the morale, kept the energy up, and wish him well wherever he winds up. Yeah.
Well, and I'll say this, folks, this is a good indication of if anybody says, hey, I'm coming back, wait till the official Razorback men's basketball social media, then tweet out a graphic or something, because that's happened in previous years where players are like, I'm coming back, and they didn't get graphics like a Trevin Brazil did or anything. So
we're gonna 100% be stuck in a Braylon Russell situation at least once.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Where we do a live stream, it's like, he's out of here. Oh man, that's crazy. And then we find out, no, actually he's coming back. He was just leveraging for an NIL raise or something. We're like, hey, you know what? We loved him all along. Yep. And we're glad he's back. It's going to happen at least once for sure.
Hey, speaking of Braylon Russell, since we're doing the Arkansas update, did anybody else tap in with Braylon Russell's day in the life video?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw the link that you sent. I saw him putting it out there and stuff. So yeah.
He posted, it was like 18 minutes. He's going to start up his YouTube channel. So everybody, Hog fans, go check out Braylon Russell's YouTube channel.
It's the best thing since Woodville.
Yeah, that's to say Woodville, man.
It's way better than Woodville. It shits on Woodville. What's funny is people do these day in the life videos and they try and make their lives look more extravagant than they are. Braylon Russell did not do that. He was like, whatever I do today, I'm filming it. It was the most normal day of all time. Like, he literally just like wakes up, goes to practice, goes to work out, goes to class, misses class because he's at the wrong location, meets up with his boys, goes to Taco Bell, gets his hair cut. Like, it's literally the most average day ever. I like Braylon Russell more than I did last night.
I like that. That's good.
Reminds me of, I guess sometimes like TikToks or Instagram Reels or whatever that a lot of the girls do of like, get ready with me as I get ready for work or cover a game and all that. I was like, man, if anybody ever saw like what I do to get ready for the day, it's the most boring thing ever. So it's just a shout out to anybody that can make it interesting. But shout out to also Braylon Russell, because the fact that he didn't even try to like spicing it up a little bit, he's just like, no, it's what's happening. what we're doing.
There was one point where he
man.
was like flexing in the camera a little bit. He was just like, I mean, he was just getting ready, and he's just like, looking pretty good. Okay, yeah. Like it was the most normal day ever. I loved it.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome. Well, speaking of that, let's go ahead and jump into our best and worst of the weekend, presented by our guys SkoooHogs. Which major shout out to old SkoooHogs. Or what's his
His name is Logan. That's his actual name.
I know his name's Logan, but I was going to ask about the Discord name. Doesn't he have something funny there?
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
Okay,
You just did.
We're not trying to dox the guy.
No, yeah, we're not. But anyways, I wanted to give him a shout out. That guy for obviously hanging out with us there in San Fran and hooking us up with an awesome place to stay. And it was a good time. It was a good time to hang out with him and really appreciate him and want to give him a shout out as part of best and worst of the weekend. I'll go ahead and start off with my best of the weekend. Now, I'm not saying that this is just so unique and has never happened before, but it always does my heart good to see certain things like that, especially in the NCAA tournament, because you hear about the wins and how awesome it is. But the losses are gut wrenching, man. Like they are maybe more so than any other sport when the postseason comes to an end, because college basketball is definitely that. But I want to play this clip from the weekend with Tennessee as they lost to go to the Final Four, then missed out on that. But Jemai Meshack had this to say about Rick Barnes. Say what you want about Rick Barnes, but this dude said a lot of cool stuff, and I think this has to hit in the feels of anybody that's ever had a coach that they really cared about. Take a listen.
It's really not about me. I don't care about getting any of the glory. I don't care about getting any of the accolades, nothing like that. I just care about, really shining light on this guy right here, shining light on these two right here, because I see him put in so much work. I seen Coach Barnes be the most consistent person every time. Even though we fight, we get into it. It just seems like we don't want to talk to each other anymore. But we go right back to practice. We get right back to coaching me like he loves to coach me. He knows how much I put in his game. But I wanted to get there for him. I really wanted people to realize how good of a coach he is. Sometimes communication can be off. Sometimes between him and the players and. That happens, but man, I wanted to get there for him. I wanted to get there for the ball fans, man. I wanted them to have something that they could be proud of. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's hard, but you're gonna have to fight through it. These are guys that's my brothers for life.
I just wanted to play that because again, it was everyone gets so fed up with transfer portal, NIL, all that stuff. But, not every player, not every college athlete is just about that. And that's the only thing they care about. Seeing something like that last night kind of restores that for people, at least for me, of like, hey, these are still people that love their coaches, that still love their teammates, that still want to win, that still love the fans, that want to provide. And just you hate to see anybody like that go through that with a loss. But that was just I felt like a really good reminder to everybody that, hey, it gets frustrating. I get it. You think these people, these kids, are because they're making money, whatever it is. But that's a great example that there's still that love and that passion for coaches, fans, players, and team and everything like that. So that to me was one of my best of the weekend.
The first recruiting interview I did when I joined 24/7 Sports was Jemai Meshack.
Oh, how about that?
I was still living in St. Louis. Like I had literally just started, and Eric Musselman had offered him, and then I think he released like his top 8 or whatever, and I just reached out to him cold, and he responded and talked to me. And obviously he didn't go to Arkansas, but it's crazy because it feels like decades ago, but I guess it, in hindsight, it really wasn't that long. But no, that was good stuff, man. Good kid. And you've seen a lot of that, honestly. At the end of the NCAA tournament, guys who just they wear it on their sleeve. You think it doesn't matter to them just because they're getting paid. That's obviously not the case. And showing a lot of love to their coaches and their teammates and everything. It's the end of a chapter. For us, it's just like so abrupt. The season's over, and it's like, dang, I guess we just turn the page and talk about the portal now, or we moved to baseball, or like whatever. But for these guys, it's literally just a completely life-changing type of deal. And some of them are going to go on to play pro ball and, make a bunch of money or whatever. Some of them are going to have to go out and get in the workforce after they graduate. But it's just an entirely new chapter. It's getting ready to start, and it just ends so quick. and then you got to get a microphone shoved in your face. So that's a difficult time, man. But that was cool. That was good to see. Sort of similar theme, March Madness theme, I guess, for me on my best of the weekend. It's the Final Four. And a lot of people are irritated. They're like, man, this is stupid. It's chalky. Where's the Cinderellas? Whatever. Most of the time when a Cinderella gets to the Final Four, they wind up getting their butt kicked, and you get an uncompetitive game. You have not only the 4 number 1 seeds that are going to be in the Final Four here. And yeah, I get it. I wish Arkansas was in it too. They're the clear 4 best teams in the country. And that's been very much established. And then it's also 4 of the top 10 programs ever in the Ken Pom era ever who are in this Final Four. It's awesome, man. I mean, this is great stuff. Auburn, who was just on such a historic pace. You got Duke, who's got the phenom freshman in Cooper Flag. You got Kelvin Sampson and Houston, who they're just so gritty and hard-nosed in everything they do. And then you got that juggernaut in Florida, who's just, flew under the radar and then just took the country by storm down the stretch. And they've got that great backcourt with Walter Clayton, and you've got all those big guys you can just roll in and out of there. If you're a basketball fan, I mean, this Final Four is electric. My worst of the weekend on Monday will be if these games are blowouts, because I think we could be in line for a couple instant classics here. I'm really looking forward to it, though. I think it's awesome.
Kind of going off of that same point, Curtis, that's a perfect way for my best of the weekend, kind of an overarching one. Sports. That's my best of the weekend. As much as we complain about everything, and when I say we, I'm really referring to the haters out there, just people that complain about everything, complain about all 1 seeds winning this. I remember when people used to complain, oh, there's not enough parity in the NBA, and oh, nobody cares about baseball. The MLB sucks. And oh, football, we hate Roger Goodell. Oh, it's so soft now. Everyone complains about everything. But I feel like we're at a good time period in sports. Because this weekend, I feel like this past weekend was a cool one because you had MLB opening weekend. You had the Final Four. There was a pretty cool UFC card on in Mexico City. Like, there's just a lot going on. Plus NBA starting to heat up. They're about to have their playoffs as well. Like, there's a lot going on. And I feel like all the sports leagues are on a pretty solid trajectory. Like, as I agree with you, Curtis, like, I think this NCAA tournament, what is it, the most watched ever? Like, every round we've been seeing all this stuff about how there's more interest, there's more engagement than ever in this NCAA basketball tournament. That's awesome. You've also got the women's side, which the women's side has been pretty entertaining as well. I've been keeping up with some of those storylines. I just feel like an MLB opening weekend, I always love that. Like, MLB is funny because it's 162 games, and so I think we all kind of go through the same phase where we get up for opening weekend and then like, all right, cool. And then there's like a couple months where it lulls out. You pick back up with them in like July, August. Curtis, shout out to your Cardinals. I believe they're for 3-0, first place. How about that?
Yeah, right, they are.
Nolan Arenado, by the way, might actually be back. Streets are saying.
Might have found it.
Yeah, it's just fun MLB opening weekend. Like, I always love this time of year. You got the weird bat scandal with the Yankees. Anytime the Yankees are involved in a scandal, like, it's just good for sports. And so, look, we'll see how all these things play out. Maybe the finals will suck. Maybe the MLB season will suck. Maybe the NBA playoffs will suck. I'm sure if you ask some of the fans, they'll say that. But I just feel like we're in a very good sports time period. There's so much going on, so much to watch. We always talk about the best sports weekends of the year. And March Madness is always up there. Super Bowl Sunday, that first college football Saturday, like Christmas Day, whatever it is, Masters Sunday, which, by the way, is also coming up. I think this past weekend was one of my favorite sports weekends from just a casual sit back and observe standpoint. And it's been fun. I'm happy to be enjoying sports because I know that's a lost art today.
Well, in this, just a great transition because for moving on to the worst of the weekend, I'm going to kind of piggyback off what both of you guys said. And I got a real quick small, also worst of the weekend after this one. But those who are complaining about, I felt this way in football, in college football in the playoffs, when everyone was complaining about the blowouts and everything. Folks, you can't look at a postseason in this particular case in a single year thing and say there's something wrong. There's something wrong here. We don't know what's going on. That's not how this works. Okay, like the 1 seeds, as you mentioned, Curtis, all being in there in the Final Four. People, 2008 also featured all number 1 seeds. You're talking about nearly 20 years ago. I don't remember anybody in 2008 being like, golly, the parity is gone. It's terrible. What in the world? Like, it's ruined the college. No. Anybody that's just chalking this year up to these 1 seeds of like, yeah, this is what the portal does, or this is NIL. I mean, this is what's happening. Or maybe it's just sports, and sometimes those things happen. Like, it pisses me off to no end how people will just take the smallest sample size and just cover it with this whole thing of like, well, this is then welcome to the new era. We're not going to see any Cinderella stories. Shut up. Like, you like, next year, I can promise you. In fact, I will put massive money down that not all the Final Four teams will be 1 seeds next year. I will bet everything on that, because it's sports. It happens. Same thing with college football. When the blowouts were happening in the playoffs, it was like, oh, this is ridiculous. We don't even need these tall teams. Well, or maybe blowouts do happen because it happens in the NFL. It happens in the NBA. It's just all over the place. And I just get so sick and tired of so many people trying to say that there's something wrong with the system, or the system's changed completely because of 1 year. 1 year. I get fed up and so disgusted by that. I get people, we talk about content and all that, but man, it's just nauseating to see. Not everybody's been this way, but just to see people trying to justify how this is either a bad thing or this is just here's your explanation as to why there's number 1 seeds only in it. It's sports. It happens sometimes. Just leave it at that and stop trying to change something. Now, if it's 1 seeds every year in the Final Four for 10 straight years, okay, then maybe we can have a conversation. But 1 year does not define the entire system. And that, to me, is my worst of the week, is just seeing all those idiots out there doing that stuff. So.
Yeah, I feel you, man. And it's interestingly enough, like my 2 worst of the weekends, it kind of coincide with some of the blowouts that we saw, in the Elite Eight there. And I'm not even throwing shade at the players so much as I just kind of like, I just hate to see it. But 2 dudes in the SEC that have just been synonymous with the league, and it feels like they've been at their respective schools for 10 years apiece. It's Mark Sears at Bama and Zakai Ziegler at Tennessee. And for their last games to have gone the way that they did, kind of crazy. I mean, you think about Sears, who hit 10 threes or whatever against BYU. And then 2 days later, he goes out there against Duke, and this is it for him. And he's 6 points, 5 turnovers. He's 2 of 12 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. That's brutal. And his team got smacked up, as a result there. And then for Tennessee, which is, still, what was it? They're tied with Xavier or something for the most NCAA tournament wins to have never made a Final Four, I think it is, which is just, I mean, that's wild. But they were outclassed by Houston, man. Houston's really good, but Ziegler, who's just been there forever, man, and he's had such a great career. And he was overmatched in that one. 5 points and 4 turnovers. He was 1 of 9 from the field and 1 of 6 from 3. And those are just 2 guys who are, both all SEC guards, and both such huge parts of getting those programs to where they are over the course of the last few years. They really go down, without much of a punch there in their last game. And now both those teams are going to be looking to replace a lot in the transfer portal, because both of those rosters are just absolutely gutted, going into the next season. It's kind of crazy.
Real shame what's happened to these programs. It's a real shame, and wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Speaking of bad things happening to my worst enemy, my worst of the weekend goes back to the diamond for a little bit. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Texas A&M sucks absolute eggs in baseball this year. They lost another series to the Kentucky Wildcats this weekend. Got absolutely ransacked by the Wildcats, who also aren't very good. Kentucky's head coach, by the way, not a nice guy, and like pretty much rubs everyone wrong. I don't know if y'all saw this, but it was 10-5 in the, I believe, 8th inning. There's a curfew rule. You can't start a new inning after a certain amount of time on a travel day, SEC baseball. It's this weird thing. So with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th, Kentucky is telling their pitcher to like take as much time as possible. There was like 4 mound visits. Like, they're doing everything they can. And I'll play the video here. Michael Early and Texas A&M, they were not happy about it.
And Mike Early may be directing this at Nick Mingione.
Get back, guy.
You have to know if you're Mingione, this won't sit well with the other side.
And then here's what Michael Early had to say about it after the game, too.
It's like even embarrassing to talk about, but I told Roy of kid got out to strike out on purpose. So we get to the bottom of the inning. Like, it's just no. I mean, you can play cleaner baseball, right? You should be able to play that game, but that just wasn't the case.
Acting like they were about to score 6 runs in the 9th inning and win that game. Tough. And guys, I really think A&M might end up firing this dude after 1 year. They pretty much promoted their hitting coach just to try and keep the roster intact, keep what was the preseason #1 overall roster in the country intact. And it is really, really not going well so far.
Disaster.
I think they're 13-14 now, and they're like 1-8 in SEC play. It's brutal.
Well, to be honest, and I know it's all like hindsight, you could just say it now, but like for real, this is why you don't hire coaches or keep coaches or whatever based on a roster. That is always going to be an awful move. Because, I'm sure you guys remember hearing it. It's like, oh, well, we don't want to fire this coach because we want to keep the roster intact or keep the recruiting class together. If that's a reason why you're keeping a coach, then you don't need to be the athletic director. That's a joke. Absolute joke.
By the way, doesn't help that Texas, where Jim Schlossnagle went, they're like 23-3, and they're like 8-1, and they're like #1 in the SEC too. Like they just beat LSU last weekend. They're absolutely cruising, and so it's just like it's really tough. Jim Schlossnagle, by the way, he's a great coach. Absolute dog piss of a human being. Like he just stinks. So it's gonna be fun to root against him when he's at Texas all these years, but it's pretty funny that A&Ms were so cocky because they had Jim Schlossnagle, and he just leaves them high and dry and leaves them with scraps. It's great.
Dog piss of a human, I think is put that one on a t-shirt. But I will also say that it was crazy. I know depending on which polls you look at and everything, but how wild. I saw Baseball America's top 25 or whatever. Arkansas is at #2, but it's Tennessee at 1, Arkansas 2, then Texas, then Georgia, then LSU. That's the top 5. By the way, Hog fans, you play all 4 of those teams this year.
Like a 5-6 week span, dude. It's unreal.
Yeah. And then you have Alabama at 8, Oklahoma at 9, and Ole Miss at 10. So literally 8 of the top 10 teams are in the SEC. So yeah, just to let y'all know. Anyways, but yeah, I also want to throw this one. Well, a lot of diamond talk today, but I did want to throw this one up here too. The White Sox in your tarp. Like, come on, man.
What's going on here?
I think that's the question, Curtis. How does a Major League Baseball franchise? It literally looks like they just went and called all the people like, hey, if you guys have tarps at your home, can you bring them with you?
Yeah,
we're gonna need the help.
That is tough, man.
That's
like
that's
a puzzle
bad look.
piece. The puzzle tarp is what they're calling this. I think that's a pitching tarp along on first base there. Like, the one that you put on the mound. They've got like 3 or 4 different ones. They somehow wound up finishing that game. It was in like the 7th inning when they had that delay. Wound up finishing it, and I'm pretty sure the White Sox lost as they tend to do. Man,
I just saw that and I'm like, okay. like a Major League Baseball program. Like there's I think Arkansas probably has a lot better tarp situation than they do, but come on, man, you're already a joke and people are making fun of you because you're awful, but then you can't help yourself with that. That's a rough look. That's a rough
future home of Hagen Smith. That's tough.
That's right. Isn't there another Razorback White Sox?
Yeah, Dominic Fletcher's there. He's not in the big leagues right now. I don't know where he's at. I guess he's probably AAA, but
I know.
Yeah, they had Cole Ramage for a little bit.
They had Benintendi though, there too, right?
Yeah, Benintendi's there. He homered on opening day as well.
That's right.
I feel like there's actually another one. I can't remember if Michael Turner's there or somewhere else. I think Michael Turner is in the system.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he at least was.
Yeah.
He probably is going to catch Hagen Smith at some point, whether it's this year, next year, sometime.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. But then at the same time, we're talking about a joke of a franchise. And it's like, hey, all these Hogs play for them. It's like,
Hogs will save them.
Maybe they'll fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. The White Sox in the MLB, the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA, and the New England Patriots in the NFL. Love their Hogs. Lots of Hog representation there. All right, so we'll continue to get to your chats, folks. I know you have a lot going on in there. We appreciate everyone tapping in, and it's presented over here by our friends over at BetSaracen. It's the #1 sports betting app in the state of Arkansas. They actually got a 3-point palooza going on right now as a special promo where if you place a $30 straight money line bet, if your team wins, you'll score $3 sportsbook bonus cash for every 3-pointer made during that game that you bet on. So some really cool some promotions there going on for the NCAA tournament. as well as all of the different futures, the money lines, the spreads for all sports, especially sports here in the Razorback side of things too. So check it out and download it today. It's the BetSaracen app. Real quick, a few storylines, I should say, before we get to the chat. I did see that Arkansas State making a massive mistake here, and looks like they're going to be hiring another Alabama assistant coach, because that's what they do. Ryan Pannoni, who is the assistant there at Alabama. Still should be Gus Argenal, making a huge mistake. But anyways, I saw somebody bringing that up in the chat. I was like,
lame.
Yeah, we don't like that. We don't like that at all. But I guess, again, if I get it from the standpoint of Arkansas State, it's like, hey, we had a good Alabama assistant. Maybe go for another one, because he sure won't leave us here soon.
There's no way it's going to work as well as the last one. I mean, everybody knew when they hired Hodgson, it was like, yeah, it's just a matter of time with this dude. I don't know that much about this other guy, but I don't think he's on the same profile as Hodgson was. So we'll see. But I was kind of surprised that they didn't just promote the guy that was on staff with him. They wound up going to staff for Butters, I think was his last name. If they're going to bring in my man Gus, keep a guy who was, a key portion of the success that you were already having there. But yeah, I mean, the Nate Oates coaching tree just continues to grow. And then he does this thing where he'll just replace him with some NBA guy and keep him for a year or two, and then they go get a mid-major job. And it's just kind of the way it continues to roll with them. It's kind of a well-oiled machine with Nate Oates. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say, do you think at some point this is going to catch up to Alabama? He's going to get enough of his assistants elsewhere where now he falls apart from within. Maybe this was the guy.
I hope so.
Yeah, maybe so. Also, a few other things too. Someone brought this up. I failed to mention that with Zach Root winning SEC co-pitcher of the week, people were wanting to know who the other one was. Ruger Rojas from Royges, I think his name, but anyway, from Texas. He's the other pitcher. The guy's name's Ruger, Rugrer. He's got to be from Texas. If you're named after a gun, you got to be from Texas. I
once knew a dog named Ruger.
I did too. My grandparents' dog was named Ruger.
My little brother had one. Yeah.
I thought Ruger was the coach at Oklahoma back in the day.
Ruger,
sort of, almost.
Ruger, yeah. Yeah, close enough there too. So, all right, a few of your chats, folks. Appreciate it. Our guy Logan is funny. None of y'all's worst of the weekend was the naked man in the streets of San Fran while with the craziest Uber driver of all time. Shocking. How was that? That was the worst. That should
almost best, my guy.
Close to the worst thing that happened.
Yeah, almost best. Hell, your reaction was maybe the best. So that was interesting. Just right after we got there, you could tell that Logan was very much trying to still figure out his new surroundings, like how he was going to feel about his time in San Francisco. And we get about 3 blocks down the road and there's just twig berries and butt cheeks just out there for everybody to see, man. That was wild.
We not in mall mail anymore, buddy.
No. And it was funny because that was like, after that, I know we did a lot of Waymos, but any Uber driver after that either like didn't talk or was just fine. But like that Uber driver we had was intense and very much like that. And it was also funny too, because one of the best of that was not only, of course, the story of everything, but also I think that was the hardest I've ever heard Ellis laugh when we talked about having a bombastic T-shirt over to that naked guy and just having like that was again, anytime Ellis laughs, it makes me laugh. So
a close second would be whenever that big donkey sat down next to Logan on the plane. I mean, literally, he could not have been larger.
Yeah. Oh man, that was hilarious. That was good stuff.
Did we determine he covers Texas Tech?
Yeah, apparently so. That's what Logan said. But yeah, that was great too, because that plane was massive and there was no two bigger individuals on that plane than Logan and this other guy, and they just had to sit by each other right there. So, but yeah, another thing I saw, I guess the Connor Goodson talked about the flight that he had to be diverted and everything.
Oh man,
dude. Okay, and I went and looked it up, guys. That was our exact flight. That would have been the flight we would have been on. But luckily, we were able to change flights to fly out Saturday until Sunday. Thank goodness, because as much as I already hate flying and us trying to get home, for us having to be like diverted to OKC and all that nonsense, I couldn't even imagine.
That sounded awful. I meant to text him, see if he got home and everything, because I know it's still storming and stuff last night. But that's tough stuff, and definitely would have been us. So I'm glad in hindsight that we were able to get that flight moved up, man.
Yeah, man. Because again, I just did not want to deal with that ever again.
Brutal.
Also, okay, I didn't want to bring this up. Not this. I'm using this chat as a reason to bring it up, but Jordan's over here saying it's so interesting to see Jack Pilgrim and BBN cape for Pope, maybe Cope for Pope. Well, it doesn't matter. Related to Kerr Creasa entering the transfer portal. Check out Pilgrim's tweet where he puts the disclaimer that this was a mutual thing. Well, I mean, portal season, dude. It's going to hit you.
I'm glad that that at least Kentucky fans have come around to the fact that Kerr Creasa is not very good.
Well, it's also I wanted to make a joke. I want to start so much crap all the time, but I have to refrain because I just don't want that stuff to happen in my mentions and DMs all over again. But I just want to be like, man, so I guess it was pretty easy for him to give up the Kentucky jersey, huh? Man,
right.
That was their big thing. It's like, oh, it's just so hard. Well, went too hard for him.
It wasn't Pilgrim. I think it was the Polachek dude who just got drug on Twitter to the point where he's had to like close off his replies. Because I guess he posted a thing where he was like, got a phone call. The only 2 words that were said, be ready. And he's like hinting at the Donovan Dent commitment, which obviously went to UCLA and not Kentucky. And so people were all over him about that. There are times where folks will get mad at me. Like, why don't you just say it's done? Why don't you just say it's happening? There's a reason why I very rarely speak in absolutes, because this stuff changes so fast, man. And nothing is over until it's over. And my man Polachek got absolutely drugged for jumping the gun there. You just can't do that unless you know for darn well sure, man. It's just the nature of the beast with the transfer portal recruiting. But I did laugh that it happened to them and not me or not one of our guys here in Arkansas. So
yeah, we would never get drug on Twitter for anything. Like, come on now. People are really nice to us. But yeah, that's the thing about the transfer portal. And now why it goes back to what my point was about covering it. I could not imagine, don't want to deal with it. But I will say there are a few things that I will hate about that. And people who do the things like, I can't say, but I'm going to say something. So just yeah, something's going on. Just be ready. I can't say what, but just be ready. Like, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. The eyeball emojis all over the place. They need to like delete those from the iPhones, man.
Like the very vague stuff that you can take a victory laugh about. Like,
yes.
Hearing Arkansas is going to land a portal commitment soon.
Dude, I'm not going to drop it out here, but I'm just going to say it. There is a Twitter account, and Curtis, you know which one I'm talking about because we had this discussion that is like anytime something happens, they're like, I talked about this weeks ago. I don't care. I do not care if you talked about it weeks ago or if you said it weeks ago. I don't care. Like I hate people that do that stuff, man. It's like, so what do you want? You want a cookie? You had a take. Or if you're wrong about something, are you always going to tweet out, be like, well, I said this weeks ago, but I was wrong. No, you're not going to tweet that. So
congrats.
Nuts,
you know,
man.
You remember that time that someone reported that Adu Thero tore his meniscus?
I do remember that.
I do remember that.
That's interesting.
That's crazy too. To see him play in the NCAA tournament with a torn meniscus. Man.
Credit to him, dude. Credit to him. But yeah, Arkansas fan base does not hold people accountable for getting stuff wrong. Because to your point, Curtis, they just want people to tell them things. They never hold people accountable when they get things wrong, though.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with being wrong because, like Curtis just said, it's like this stuff's fluid. Sometimes it happens that way.
Oh, but, man. Yeah.
Geez, just don't act like it was like the worst thing ever. If you know what you know, but yeah, people just take it so seriously.
Yeah. We will get blindsided by something, probably more than one thing over the next few weeks here for sure.
Oh yeah. My favorite thing is still to this day of remembering when all the local, I'm not calling out anybody, but just saying all the local media here in Arkansas was like, Derek Gragg's going to be the next athletic director for Arkansas. Derek Gragg. Confirmed. And then a day later, he wasn't. It ended up being Hunter Yurchek. But my favorite thing is everyone's like calling him like, hey, and the girl. And instead of just being like, hey, our sources said this or anything like that, they just be like, we stand by our reporting. Well, your reporting then sucks because you were wrong. So you can't stand by it if it was that way. Like,
just keeping it real, bro.
Yeah, just keeping it real. Always just keeping it real. Jeff says, where do y'all think Arkansas will place in the final polls?
16.
Yeah.
I just hope they're in the top 25.
It better be.
They
There's
got to
at least-
be, right?
Well, I mean, they weren't even on the radar of that. And you beat Kansas and St. John's, and so those are two really good wins to have on there. Like, you were one of the last 16 standing. So I would think that they would see that and have them in the top 25 at the end of the year. But, at the same time, double-digit seeds who go on second weekend runs don't always get there. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Also, Ryder wants to know, what's the story on Kareem retail? Seems like everyone forgot about him.
I do get asked about him like every single day. And I felt like we covered it a lot in the moment and in the days after that. Andrew appears to be frozen on us. Okay. Yeah. Oh, no, he's back. Okay. I don't really know what to say about him. Played pro ball overseas. He's Lebanese. He was playing in Latvia or Lithuania or whatever it was. And he's a project player coming over to Arkansas. Coming in, he's older. He's 20 years old. Might be 21 by the time he hits campus. He's going to be a 20-year-old freshman, but he's got professional playing experience. So there's going to be an adjustment period there. He's 6'9", got a good frame on him, and you can kind of see the vision there. I mean, he can knock down some threes. He can put it on the floor a little bit. So maybe skilled at his size, but he's got a lot of things to refine. He's going to have to put on some weight and get more physical. Probably going to have to figure out some things as a team defender. I've heard some murmurings that he might redshirt, next year. I think it's probably way too early to say that, but I think this is kind of a multi-year type of project guy. And hey, if he comes over with the experience that he has and adjusts quick and pops, then maybe he can help you next year. But I think it's just improved depth from what you had last year is kind of how I see it.
Can we agree that he's not the type of piece that is going to affect the way Arkansas attacks the portal or affect the way they build this roster? Like, he's not the type of guy where it's like, oh, we got this guy, so we no longer need a 4. We no longer need it's like, he's a nice piece to have, and we'll be excited about it. We will wish him well, but like, it's not going to be a guy that is relevant in these conversations when we're talking about how Arkansas is going to build their roster.
I agree with that completely. Yeah, it's not going to change their plan of attack here.
All right, a few more chats. Curtis, do you understand this reference from Heartbroken Hog?
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Wanted to bring it up anyway because only a Sith deals in absolutes, and I wanted to bring it up because I'm a nerd, and Heartbroken Hog, I thought the same thing when he said the word absolutes too.
It is true. I'm just saying.
Yes, it is true. Only a Sith does that. And also, let's see. Daniel says, appreciate the picture at the Mississippi State game, John. I love what y'all do. Shout out to Curtis. Good to see you doing good, brother. So appreciate it.
Appreciate that. I'm wondering who this is. I grew up with a Daniel Lane, and I know it might be a fairly common name. I don't know if it's the same guy or not.
Oh, he does have it spelled with an A.
It's a unique spelling.
Yeah. I don't remember that part of the equation, but either way, thank you. Appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. Well, the first picture's free there, Daniel, but the second one's going to cost you, buddy. Also, Ryan just wanted to know, why aren't we talking basketball? Because we did earlier in the show. Just rewind and go back.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he was teeing off on the title of the show and everything. You come in an hour and 25 minutes into an hour and a half show, and you're like, why aren't you talking basketball? We did like the whole show. We have since circled back to it.
It's so dumb. Like I get it, folks. Like, I know that we can't please everybody, but sometimes it's just like, come on, man. Like,
bro, listen to 12 seconds. He was like, I'm out. This is not enough, bro.
Yeah. Jeez, man. Unreal. And finally, this one came from the earlier part of the show. Jose says, before I forget, John, what do you think of the Oregon State Beavers? Do tell. Whatever are you referring to, Jose? Could it have something to do with what Curtis happened to say on his pod at the Palace about I'm a big fan of the Oregon State Beavers? Is that it? Must have something to do with that. But no, that's a story for another time.
Yes. Okay.
There you go.
Daniel. Yeah, it's exactly who I thought it was. Awesome, man. That's good stuff. Happy to hear from you. Yes, I'm doing well. Hope you are too. Yeah, I definitely remember the days of growing up in the mean streets of Chapel Oaks apartment complex in McCrory. Good memories, man. That's awesome.
Like, I don't know what the population of McCrory is, but I feel like it's, the likelihood of having a few guys that are there, knowing each other. and being on the stream and all that stuff has to be pretty rare, I would think.
Very cool.
Yeah. Oh, and sorry, finally, forgot super chat from Hayden earlier, but he said Corbin should have paid Kojio his cash. So, yeah. Corbin, he can no longer just give full scholarships anymore. That's not going to cut it.
Corbin might be watched, man. Like, I really, dead serious think Vanderbilt might have their place in the hierarchy of college baseball is very different than it was 3 years ago. I'll just say that.
Well, there you go. Well, guys, any final thoughts before we roll out of here for the day?
Yes, I see a few people here at the end of the chat offering some well wishes to me. I will not be here tomorrow, which is, I just know that so much is going to happen tomorrow. But I got this string of appointments from like 10 o'clock through probably, I don't know, 3:30 or 4, and then I'm not going to be able to see for a couple hours after that. So I hope that it's not the day where all of the stuff starts happening with portal news and everything. But we'll be around as much as I possibly can be. Appreciate everybody for the well wishes and everything. I'm good though. Like I really am, and I've tried to convey that. But something I've known about, it's been a thing for a while, and just got to continue to get checkups and everything, and make sure everything's good there. And even if it's not, like if there's something that's changed or different on the scans and the tests and everything, that would suck a lot temporarily, but I'll be fine. So like no big picture crazy concerns or anything like that. Just fact of life. Everybody's got health things that they got to deal with, and I'm all good. So I appreciate the well wishes though.
Don't worry. Me and Andrew got the portal down lock. If anything ever pops off, you can count on us.
In good hands. I feel great about it. So
what a cruel April Fool's joke that'd be. A big commitment happens and you just see me and John's face up on the screen.
Well, if I have to hop on, like with my eyes all dilated and everything, and try to talk to you guys, that would be electric though.
Yeah, Michelle can help get you set up. You don't need your eyes to talk ball.
You're right. That's exactly right.
Well, I don't have any final thoughts other than, as always, tune into the Bombastic Podcast, the best freaking baseball show ever. And woo pig.
Yeah, and there you have it. And Curtis, you can just write out the words that me and Andrew would need to say if you couldn't get on at all. Just write it out. We'll read your script verbatim. Gotcha. So we'll make it happen. But yeah, it's going to be a busy time, folks. As we know, it's a great time of year for sports, but it's also a busy time. So be sure that you're tuning in right here at Inside Arkansas for all of it going on. It's portal season for basketball with Pod at the Palace, Razorback baseball season, and the SEC's in full swing with Bombastic. We're going to be live each and every weekday right here on Inside Arkansas Live. And so be sure to tune in, be sure to subscribe, be sure to follow along with us because it's going to be a lot of fun. But appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in. For Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we'll see you then.